You don't need another strategy. Here's what you actually need to figure out why you can't implement the things that you already know. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, former psychologist, now business coach, and I help women just like us to build profitable private practices, usually in under 12 months. Being neurodivergent means I see the patterns that other coaches miss, but it also means I'm a truth teller, so I'm not interested in giving you any business advice that sounds good or might be trending, but doesn't actually work for us. Welcome to the Practice Momentum podcast, where we're going to get your private practice sorted out. Thanks so much for being here, and let's get on with the next episode. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And I have what I think is going to be super duper helpful for you today, especially if you're someone who often feels like, I don't know, like you're always catching up and like the diary just kind of gets out of your control. So yeah, you're going to want to hear this. But before I dive in, I just want to apologize to you for not recording an episode on Wednesday or Saturday last week. And the reason for that is I was just totally absorbed in what was happening with the purchase of the house and all of those things. And I'll give you an update about all of the fun sort of behind the scenes stuff after I've spoken about the more serious work stuff. So the people who are here for the work stuff, great. You can click off when we move into the behind the scenes. For everybody who likes behind the scenes more than the work stuff, maybe fast forward. But the reason that I want to talk with you about the diary situation is because it's been something that I've been dealing with for a very long time. And if I start to reflect on when did it all begin that I just, started to have problems with the diary, I think it was when I became full-time in private practice. Because when I was working for someone else, and even when I was in private practice, right, I had big contracts with some very big like insurance companies and things like that, doing things around psychology for their businesses. And, I didn't have an issue getting things done on time. I knew where I was meant to be. I knew what I had to get done. So why was it that, I don't know, like even without even being aware of it at the time, I don't know, things just went haywire when it came to managing the diary in private practice. And I was thinking before I did this episode this morning, like, where was the starting point for all of this? Was it the ADHD? Was that what was behind it? But it really wasn't, because I've generally always been able to follow a diary. Even though I struggle with structure and rigidity, there's also part of me that really does like routine. And I think that's probably what's behind it. If I look back to when I was employed, there was absolutely routine. When I was doing stuff for employment services, for example, we used to have the morning meeting that used to happen every morning, 8 till 8:30. And it was like a check-in. Where's everybody at? You knew what was expected of you in terms of what you had to present for, the number of clients you were seeing and where the clients were at in terms of getting a job or losing a job or struggles they were having, support they were needing. All of that was happening. And then we used to see clients until, mid-afternoon, and then it was like everybody would be back in the staff room doing debriefs, checking. You knew what was expected all the time. There was a great big whiteboard with a tracker that had everybody's numbers, and like there was stuff happening, but there was also routine. And I think that is probably, if I look back, I think it was the lack of routine and also the not knowing that caused my diary and so my day and so my confidence to, I guess, go a little bit wobbly, and it stayed like that for a very long time. But again, when I was working at the medical centers, it wasn't a problem managing my diary because I was just busy. I thought that I was in private practice, and I was, but since moving out of bulk billing medical centers, I learned there's all this other stuff about private practice that I never knew about. Like, you got to have a website, you got to have business cards, you've got to, hustle. That's what the culture was back then. You got to hustle and go and get clients, and it's hustle, 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 and all these things. And I was totally unprepared for it. And that's when I think everything kind of went haywire, because there was no real structure for me around the diary. And what I was used to was, oh, the diary is, that's where you put all your sessions, right? That's where you put all your appointments. And so what would happen would be, I was looking at my diary and I was seeing availability and I was freaking out because I didn't have appointments. And then what ended up happening was, once the diary did get full, I did silly things like stopped marketing because, oh, I don't need clients at the moment. I was so naive. I had no idea. And so I stopped marketing. And then what happened was clients would finish and then it was like, oh, now I've got to go and hustle again. So I was constantly doing this. But the other thing that I learned, and I didn't learn this until I stopped doing free, well, not free because the government paid me to do it. I was bulk billing as a psychologist, so I can't say it was free. It didn't cost a client a cent, is what I mean. I was not charging clients, which is why it really bothers me to see on, like, this is just a quick side quest now. It really bothers me to see counsellors on their websites say, oh, you can't get a Medicare rebate if you work with me, but don't panic. I charge the same as a psychologist gap fee. You don't. There are plenty of psychologists who still bulk bill. They're out there. They do it. You can't say that. Like, it's misleading. Don't do it. Anywho, where was I going with this? So, yeah, I wasn't charging. And then I did start to charge. And what happened was I was super happy because I started to realize I don't need to see the volume of clients anymore that I was. And what that meant was a transition phase, which I was happy about, but it was also unnerving at the time. I was scaling back. So people talk about 3 stages of private practice. There's the starting phase, and that's where, as the name suggests, you're starting and you're figuring it out and you're putting your systems together, things like that. Established is when it's up and going and it's, at profit. That's established. So you could be in private practice for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and not be at profit. That stage for you is still considered startup. Then established is when you're in it, you're strengthening your systems, you're maybe once they're well and truly sort of locked in and they're working well for the business, then you would start doing maybe other things like, oh, I'm going to go and learn how to be a supervisor and I'll add another stream for service and revenue into the practice, or, I'll go and do a course and add that into the practice. So you're establishing and you're starting now to explore what those other things might look like if indeed that's what you want to do. And then the third stage is scaling, and scaling can be forward or back, up or down, depending on all kinds of things, where you are in your life. Like, you might be ready to, dial it back a little bit. It might depend on your health. It might depend on family commitments. Like, could depend on all kinds of things. Burnout, so scaling up can look like adding things into the business now, like passive income, extra courses, group programs. Maybe it's hiring subcontractors or employees for the business. Maybe it's expanding the practice to go from where you are and opening up maybe other offices around the country, via telehealth or something like that. So you've got a presence in different states. So that's an example of what scaling up could look like. Scaling back can look like, I have hit my limit of trading time for money. I am capped, I can only deliver this many single sessions or couple sessions or family sessions in a week. I really want to be able to do work in a way that lets me help more, but also gives me back my time, but doesn't compromise my current income. So that's really about scaling back in terms of time and getting you back some time freedom and stuff like that. So they're kind of the 3 stages. And when I was in that stage of, oh, okay, now I'm charging a fee and I can start to see less clients, it was unnerving because it was new to me. I hadn't done it before, and it felt scary because I was so used to the diary must be full, the diary must be full, the diary must be full, right? So to see all these gaps, yeah, bit scary, bit unsettling. But here's the other thing. What ended up happening was with those gaps, I started filling that time with business things. So I started doing more stuff on Facebook, or I started doing a little bit more marketing, or I'd use the time to go to a meet and greet or meet with a local politician about what was happening with Medicare and the mental health hubs and things like that. It freed up my time to go and work on the business. And I think that's probably the thing that you don't learn when you first start a private practice. But when clients work with me in Practice Momentum, like, it's in the initial onboarding. Like, you must be able to set aside and commit to 2 hours a week minimum to work on the business, because without it, you're working in the business, and where are you going to do things like your invoicing, your marketing, your relationship management, your admin? Like, what ends up happening is what happened to me. You do it after hours, or you do it on your weekends, and it's sucking up time that you would normally be spending doing other things, like being present with your dog when you take him out for a walk, if you're me, right? Instead of being on your phone trying to deal with stuff. It looked like I was big into ballroom dancing at the time. I was big into hiking at the time. But there were nights where I couldn't do my activities, my hobbies, the things that I really loved, because I was doing work on the business after hours. And you see, it's kind of like, this idea of scope creep, how things just kind of bleed into other areas. It was kind of like that. It was that in my mind, I saw my diary as the diary is where you have clients and you just do business stuff randomly, as needed, as it crops up in your own time, and you just deal with it. And I assumed that was what everybody else was doing back then, because I didn't know any different, right? My supervisor certainly didn't give me any guidance on it. She was just like, yep, keep going. This is what it's like. And it is not what it's like. So what I know now is that when you run a private practice, you need to have time for client sessions and time to work on the business. So when you've got that time to work on the business, it's great because you've got this 2-hour block. For me, it started as a 1-hour block. Then I really liked it. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if I could do 2 hours. And I crept up to 2 hours. And then that was even more helpful than the one. And then next thing you know, I'd allocated, it was a Thursday morning from 9 to 12. And I had the morning. And that felt so spacious. And I knew then that I could carry over anything on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that needed to be done on and for the business to the Thursday morning, right? So that started to help. But I guess as I see less and less clients, I'm not currently practicing at the moment seeing clients for counseling and therapy, I noticed that my diary, it was kind of like I would think in the morning, oh, great, I need to do this today, that today, this today, that today. And I would note 3, 4, or 5 things that I needed and wanted to do. And I would start the day feeling really optimistic about it and great energy and all those kinds of things. And then I would start to, on a task and notice that I would get sidetracked. Something would happen. Maybe a client needed a resource. Maybe somebody needed some help or support. Maybe there was something in my email that needed attention. Maybe it was an unexpected meeting with somebody. There would always be something. Or I would be, I don't know, researching something and then click on links, and you know what that's like. And so constantly getting distracted, but being very, 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 very busy and doing things. And, it was like putting out little fires everywhere that were needed to be put out, may not have needed to be put out then and there, but I saw that they did because I was feeling like, oh, I just better get rid of these things so that then I can do my 4 or 5 things that I want to do today. But what would end up happening was, while I was doing those other random things that came up and ticking them off, other random things were coming up. It was like whack-a-mole. Like I would whack one mole on the head, another would pop up. It was like that. And I didn't realize that was what was happening. And I'd get to the end of the day, which was very flexible for me because of ADHD, right? There are some days I don't want to work at all. I really just want to sit in the bath all day with a good book and top it up with hot water every now and again. Like I just want to do that and be left alone in peace and quiet. But then there are other days where I want to get up at 6 in the morning and I want to be on the computer till midnight and just smash through a whole lot of stuff. So there was that. So anyway, I was thinking about all the things that I have tried to implement to manage my diary and manage my time so that I can tick things off and still have a life. And I learned some things and I'm going to share them with you. The one thing actually that worked really well. So I'm going to share with you my strategy because, hopefully it helps somebody. And I'm more than happy to share it with you. The other thing that I learned too was that when I was thinking about how I want to structure my time differently a while ago and what I wanted it to look like, of course, I also needed to look at what hadn't worked and really unpack for myself why it hadn't worked. And then I saw it so clearly, and it was like once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. But I think the way that I had been treating my diary was that it was just very restrictive. I was trying to make time to do certain things, and when the time would come to do the certain thing, I didn't want to do it a lot of the time, which then made me more likely to explore potential side quests, let's just say. Not consciously. I wasn't like, I think I'll do something else. It was just like, okay, I know I've got to do this thing. But then I'd find myself just clicking on my Gmail and, looking through my emails and doing things like unsubscribing from things, like just random stuff. It was totally avoidant behavior because I didn't want to do the thing that I was meant to be doing. So I can see now that perhaps because of the neurodivergence, I don't know. I think perhaps because of that, maybe the rigid diary didn't work for me. I also know that when I look back at how I was spending my time, as I said, a lot of it was putting out little fires everywhere all the time, every day. That probably didn't need so much of my time or attention, but I spent way longer on them than I should have for whatever reason. So there was that. I wasn't allocating, focused time for key areas for the business because I was doing other things around services that I already had. So, for example, I was constantly creating resources for my private practice coaching clients, like constantly making a new resource. And of course, it's never with me anyway. It's never just like, oh, here's a new resource. No, I've got to go and make a nice image for it. And then I've got to put it here. Then I've got to let everybody know about it. Then I've got to send an email. And it's like a big thing, right? So there was a lot of time spent in that sort of resource creation, content creation, hours and hours and hours. And just a total time drain, but you don't realize it as it's happening. So yeah, that was happening as well. And I can see now that a rigid diary doesn't work for me. The other thing that I had tried was the paper and pen planners, because I'm old school. I do like to write things down. I even bought, I may have mentioned it on a previous episode. I think I was so excited I nearly wet myself. It was Creator's Friend were having some huge sale. It may have been Black Friday or over Christmas or something. But I ended up getting like the whole kit. I bought myself all of the journals. Oh, Creator's Friend, I'm not affiliated with them. I'm just sharing like what I got. They specialize in making like 30-day journals or planners or exercise books, whatever. They're thin, like little notebooks, and you can put them all together in one little folio. It's really nice. It's a leather folio, and it's got a piece of elastic, and you just like weave your little journals, your little booklets into that. So I think you make your own sort of folio by picking and choosing what journals you want. So I think I got one that's just like blank paper. I got a bullet one. I got one for habit tracking. I got one for project planning, all of this. And I got beautiful. I really love green. I really love anything that's, I'm boho, like I really love natural woods, timbers, anything with a fern or a gum leaf or anything green. And so I got myself the green folio, forest green. I really like it. You can get a monogrammed, all of this. And yeah, I think with all of the I think I got like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 of these little booklets that go into your folio. And I think everything combined was about $160. And I was just like so excited to get it. And it came in this beautiful calico bag, and it had tissue paper, and it was just like a whole experience. Really loved it. Have I used it? No. The other thing that I got was a planner by Steph Pace, and I was so excited to get this planner. So I've been a fan of hers since they first came out, right? And I really love it because it's huge. It's bigger than A4, and it's hardcover, spiral bound. And at the time I was really into rose gold, which was a big deal because it was pink and it had rose gold writing and a rose gold spiral thing, it had stickers, it had tabs, all of this, everything you could ever want in a planner. And I took it away with me on one of my, getaways, and I spent probably a full day sitting at the table in Dalesford in the accommodation I'd booked, and I just had, my gin and tonic or my wine, whatever I was drinking at the time, and my chocolates, and I just sat there with all my highlighters and my pens, and I was just like mapping everything out, just like it was a total brain dump, but every brain dump had tasks broken down into activities, which then got put onto the specific days that they needed to be done and all of the things. And I loved it, loved it, loved it. So happy. Got back from my getaway, put the planner on my desk, didn't use it, ended up using the planner for scratch paper. I know. So it's not, and then I tried like apps for your phone where you can, structure your day and schedule your day and everything. And that worked for a while. I forget which one it was. I had good success with one. I think it might have just been called Schedule Me or something. I had good success with that for about, I don't know, nearly 12 months. And I did recommend it. but then dropped off. But I understand why now. The reason why was because a lot of those things were either restrictive or they didn't have any structure. So it was like I needed the Goldilocks of a planning system and didn't realize it. I was trying this one over here. It was too structured, too rigid. My brain didn't like it. I didn't like it. My energy didn't like it. Then I had this other one over here, which was just like freestyle. It was just like, wow, here's a blank planner. Go for it. And you overestimate what you can do and the time it takes to actually do things, which isn't great. So I needed something in between. And I developed something that works for me. And that's what I'm going to share with you right now. So what I needed to do to create this, in case you want to create one for yourself, if you don't want to use mine, the process that I did was I just wrote out the main things that my business needs me to be doing. So not the client stuff, but what the business actually required. Things like the marketing, and I wrote down the specifics, things that the financial side of the business needed from me, all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of grouped all of those tasks into categories, came up with 4, and then I just use these 4 plus I've got a spare one. So this is my 4 categories that I do every single day. And the first one is money. So every single day I have a category in my diary now called money. I allocate an hour. I usually only need about half that, but I allocate an hour. It's just in my diary as money, and I do anything there that might need to be sorted out. So on Mondays, I do what I call Money Monday, and that's like higher level stuff. But on the remaining days, I have space for money, and that might be if I don't know, a new person joins my program, I need to get their stuff set up, right? So I need to go in and set up their invoicing or things like that. Or if at the moment I'm having battles with Stripe, I don't know how it happened, but the Authenticator app deleted off my phone and took all my authentication tools with it, including the one I need for Stripe. And now you can't log into your Stripe account if you don't have the Authenticator thing. The way you get the Authenticator thing is by logging in. And now we're just going through this big loop. It's been going on for about 6 weeks. I haven't been able to get into my Stripe account. So anyway, I will do money related things in that time. The other time that I have is for outreach. So outreach for me looks like responding to inquiries, and that might be by emails, or it might be if people have sent messages or they've asked me stuff in communities and groups and things. I will just go back and reply. So that's what outreach looks like when it's responsive. So just as the name suggests, replying to inbound things from a business, but also outreach in terms of going out to various segments in my email list and saying, hey, I've got this new thing, or hey, I'm checking in, or hey, what do you need? So that is just some quick examples there of what outreach looks like for me. So inbound, but also outbound outreach around not so much cold clients, people who've never heard of me, but more just trying to stay in touch with people who are in my world and make sure I got my pulse on what they're all needing and things like that. It also looks like workflows. So just making sure that I have all of the right workflows in place. So for example, I recently updated my sales pages for the essential forms for private practice and for the website wellness check. So then I went and updated my email workflows so that I can just automate it all, make sure people got the things that they were buying, make sure they were happy with them, make sure they knew about how to find out other ways that I can help them, let them know about my free community or my podcast or coaching, or do you know what I mean? Like all of that. And so just making sure that was all set up and it could just go in the background without me ever having to worry about it until it needs to be updated again, maybe in 6 months or 12 months. And making sure it was all, connected to Thrivecart and, all of the things. So that's like another thing that I do for my outreach. So behind the scenes, I'm just going through making sure there are workflows for everything and making sure I've got, like abandoned cart sequences set up and that. So I have space for that. And then the next category is visibility. So the visibility is, how can I get in front of people who don't know that I exist? So that's me wanting to raise awareness in the community where my ideal clients are. So what would that look like and how can I do it? So is it going to be that, oops, sorry, my little alarm there. Is it going to be that maybe I still haven't done it yet, by the way, but I've got to merge my Google business profiles. I still haven't done it, but I should probably do that today. Oh, it's a long story, but I think I mentioned it before to you. But yeah, I had a Google business profile. Then I went to go and make another one and I was like, well, you can't because there's already one. And anyway, we've got a whole thing going on with Google. So I'm just trying to get that sorted. And it's not hard to fix. It's just I haven't done it. But yeah, so I could do something like that. I could maybe look at starting a blog. I might do a podcast episode. Things like that can get me in front of people, letting people know that these things are there if they want to listen to them. So I can do that by posting on Facebook about it or sharing to my stories or sending an email to my email list that there's a new podcast episode out. Do you know what I mean? So I can do that. It's not enough just to have the thing, right? You can't just release a podcast episode or you can't just publish your website and sit back and wait for clients. You've got to lead clients to it. That's why it's called lead generation. You've got to have a way of saying to people, oh, over here, follow me. You've got to bring them over to the thing. So I spend time each day on visibility. It could also look like updating SEO, all the things. And then the last category I have is really around execution and education. So for me, the execution is me doing the client work. So showing up and helping the clients that I work with. And that's the most important thing. And then once that's done, then I want to educate myself. So every single day, I want to learn one more little thing. All this knowledge compounds and then my clients benefit because I can come back to them with new information, new ideas, how it works for us. It's very important to me to be on the leading edge of what's happening in private practice and give that to my clients so they can be on the leading edge too. And at the moment, for me, this is all things AI. So execution and education. So yeah, when you put that all together, it's pretty cool because it spells a word and the word is move. M for money, O for outreach, V for visibility, and E for execution and or your education. But around that, the other thing that I've found super duper helpful is to add an S onto the end. So the word is moves, and the S isn't something that is there every single day, but it is space in my diary, and it's just called space for unexpected stuff. That's literally what it's called in my diary, and it's an hour twice a week, and anything that comes up in the day that I haven't anticipated and that I can't do in the move, or I've already done that letter for the day, I just go and add that into my space for unexpected things. I don't put pressure on myself to do it urgently. I don't prioritize it. I just say, okay, fine, great. I will just do it in this time. Some days I need that time. Other days I don't. But it floats throughout the week. And yeah, it's just 2 hours, and I just separate them into separate, like 1 hour slots, and I just float them between Monday and Friday. And then that's very important to know too, because with the move, with the way that I allocate the time against those 4 other areas of business, apart from the execution where, I have dedicated time. So, I've got dedicated time each day to support my clients. That I can't change. That's fixed. But that's the only thing that's fixed in my diary. And I enjoy doing that work, so it's perfectly okay. But everything else in the day is flexible. So this is the first thing I'm doing this morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of a late start for me. I like to start at 8, but Buddy and I were watching Netflix, and anyway, time got away from us. I'm doing this thing where I'm trying to have like slow mornings now. Getting up at 6:30, having a cup of coffee, spending time with Buddy, just like easing into the day rather than rushing into the day. It's working. But anyway, I didn't start with the letter M this morning. This morning, I was like, okay, I'm doing move today. What do I feel like doing? I feel like I'm in the mood to do the podcast episode. So I started with the letter V. So the MOVE can be fluid. As long as they're done, they can be fluid. And that works really, really well for me because I still feel like I've got the flexibility. I'm not rigid. I still have the structure and the routine that my brain and my energy and my body need. That I'm still getting the key areas that my business needs. I'm still getting the key areas that my clients need. And I'm getting through things a lot more quickly because there's a lot less side questing happening, especially with this floating space for the unexpected things. So it's working for me, and I wanted to share it because maybe it could work for you too. This was my process. I would encourage you to either give my process a try and then refine it and turn it into your own, or listen to how I came up with it and then maybe come up with your own. You have your own priorities, you have your own values, and you have your own energy and your own way of working and things that are important to you. For me, this year, it's about how do I strip things back, because I want more space. I want more space with my time. I want more space in my brain. I want more space with my energy. I want more space with the finances. I want more space with my living situation. I want more space everywhere. And by having these 1 hour blocks, it also works for me because there's a little bit of time pressure. And I know that some people avoid deadlines, they don't like them. I've tried doing things without a deadline. What I know is that when something is due, I will wait until the last minute to do it. It's unlike me to get things done ahead of time. I can just give you so many examples of this. If I have a 90-day plan for my business, I know I'll leave it until day 88 to get started. If I know that something is due at the end of the day, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to make sure it gets done today, especially if there's something important writing on it. And I'm not, for me, like, I get that there are people that really work well with accountability. I think for me, it's just my own experience, and I'm not speaking for all neurodivergent people or anything like that. But for me, accountability doesn't help. For me, what helps is just sometimes the co working, like knowing that there's a body there, really, really helps, even though I'm not accountable to that person. Right? There's no great big consequence or anything like that. That really helps me. I can absolutely appreciate why accountability and how accountability does help other people to stay on task and focused, but it's not me. It's the co-working. And the other thing that really helps me get things done is knowing there's a deadline. Knowing there's a deadline. So, yeah, and then on the back end of that deadline is, of course, reminding myself of why I wrote down these tasks to do under money, outreach, visibility, or execution in the first place. And that's all to create space. And when I remind myself, hang on, you need to get this done, because if you get it done today, that's going to create more space in your diary, or that's going to create more space in your life, or more space with your time, then suddenly it becomes very important again. So connecting those tasks in those pockets of time to sometimes the co-working, always trying to tell myself you've got the hour to do it, and then remembering why. And each of those three little motivators there will work differently at different times for different reasons, for who knows why. But I was saying to somebody the other day, she said, oh, use a timer. And, I've got a timer, but I've got to be in the mood. It will work for me sometimes and not other times. If I'm in hyperfocus and I'm using a timer, I will just set it for another hour and I will keep doing that. And then it will go off for the 6th or 7th time and I just want to throw it through a window because it's distracting me. Timers work for me, I know now, when I'm not in hyperfocus, when I'm just having like a regular day, absolutely a timer will work. On those days when I'm in hyperfocus, I don't need anything. So it's also about understanding why the tools that you're using to help you tick things off do and don't work for you, and looking at the patterns that you're able to identify when you look back. So for me, when I'm sharing with you about the timer, I was thinking to myself, well, when has it worked? When didn't it work? And why did I get the timer in the first place? I got it because my practitioner recommended, hey, this is a great way for ADHD. I got the timer. I wanted to give it a go. I saw it didn't work for hyperfocus, but I can also see it does work when I'm not in that space. So now I understand it's not that timers don't work. It's that for me, I need to use them under certain conditions to get the result. So you got to do a little bit of that. But I think what works with my process here is that I'm getting those 4 areas done in the order I want to do them. They all move around. They are time guided on the days when I'm not in hyperfocus, or the opposite, where I'm not just bombed out and I just don't want to, I just want to be completely quiet and completely, I guess, in my own space. Yeah. So they're the 2 extremes, right? So that's what works for me when I am sort of in the middle space. So yeah, have a little bit of a think about that. And by the way, I just want to say, if the track just glitched a minute ago, it was just because somebody who started to bark at a bird. So I had to quickly hit pause and then delete the barking bit and hit record again. So anyway, that's the process. So have a think about how you're spending your time. Think about where the time is going, what tasks you're doing. Write it all down, and even retrospectively. And then I would look at clumping it into a few categories. I would say, 5 categories, 4 categories. Don't overwhelm yourself. and just try it. I mean, what have you got to lose, right? Just try it. So, yeah, that's that. So that's the business part of the podcast episode for today. If you want to hear about, the other stuff, the life stuff, stay with me. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you in the next episode. So, yeah, the house. If you listen to the last episode, you know the whole story. I'm just going to pick up where we left off. So, yeah, I went and got a building inspection done. I'm pretty sure I told you this. I'm not sure. I'll just give you like a quick refresh. But anyway, I have this beautiful conveyancer. She said to me, oh, you want to go and get a building inspection done? I was iffy about it because I really wanted the house, and the estate agent had given me every reassurance that, of course, the house was fine and didn't need anything doing to it because it couldn't not be fine if it's got a tenant in it, right? So I kind of didn't feel like I needed to do it, but the conveyancer was like, oh, it's always a good idea, just cover yourself. It's like, okay. So I did it more kind of, just based on that. Anyway, she says, oh, here's a name of some people. They say that, yeah, they can do it. But the thing is that they don't normally work out in that region. They normally work more towards the city. They tell me they've been out to the region once in the past. Anyway, later that day, I get a flurry of messages from the conveyancer and the building and pest inspection people saying, hold your horses. Like, yep, just wait a minute. We've already been out there. We've already done an inspection, blah, 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 blah. And I thought to myself, holy smokes, like what are the chances of that? And I took it to be another sign from the universe that I was on the right track. And anyway, they sent through a report from the last inspection, and they were like, oh, it doesn't look good, all of this. And I wasn't even panicked because I just felt so, I don't know, like supported, so taken care of, so like, no, I just know this is my house, that when I looked through the report, I was, not surprised to see that a lot of the things that were in it were actually quite minor. I thought to myself, oh, well, I can paint over that. One of the other things was, oh, the latch on the gate, isn't connecting properly or something. And I thought, well, that's just a trip to Bunnings and I'll get my own latch for the gate. And another one was, oh, there's a loose door handle in the foyer. And I was like, again, like not a big deal. I can get out the screwdriver. I'm capable of tightening up a handle. So it looked like there were lots of things in the report, but to me, they weren't anything really, really major. There were a couple of things that they were like, two of the internal walls aren't plumb, and there's two windows that stick a bit when you're trying to open them, and they're the sash windows, the ones that lift up vertically. And I just thought to myself, well, the house is 131 years old. It's going to have like walls that aren't plumb anymore, and it's probably going to have difficulty with a window jamming. But I just figured, like, I've dealt with jamming windows before. I can easy fix that with a bit of WD-40. Like I was seeing solutions, and it just affirmed to me that this really is my house. Anywho, I get back to the conveyancer and I'm like, she says to me, so what are you going to do? Are you going to get the inspection done or not? And I'm like, well, I don't really think I need it, And she said, I still think we should go ahead and get it just in case. And so I said, oh, all right. So I ordered it, and the guy went out and did it, and he did it last week on Wednesday or Thursday. And then I got the report back, and then he was like, we need to talk about it. And the report is 83 pages long, and it's got everything. Oh, it needs restumping. Oh, it's got evidence of termites in the rafters in the ceiling. It's got this, it's got that. Like, a home handyman basically has gone to town trying to make home renovations and just like ruined the whole thing. There were photos of the underground plumbing and underground plumbing. The house is up on stilts, and well, the back of the house is on stilts because the land falls away, and there's no dirt or soil that goes, I guess, from the ground right up to underneath the house. So you can see the stumps and you can see the stilts and stuff like that, and you can see the pipes. Now, I just thought they were normal pipes. I've got no idea how many elbows and things like that you're meant to see, but apparently it was excessive, and apparently a bunch of them were not capped, which that's a problem. Yeah, termites. Is it boar or borer in the wood, in the floorboards, in the original floorboards that I really loved. There was a whole heap. There was the guy who had done, the home reno had installed or renovated the bathroom, and in the shower he'd put taps, but he didn't put sealant around the taps. And so what had happened was, when you get underneath the house, the membrane for the waterproofing stuff all gone. The floorboard is rotting underneath the shower. So it's like, I could be having a shower and the shower could give way any moment and I could get really hurt, because I would be essentially landing on those vertical stumps, which, by the way, are only about as wide as maybe 2 cigarette packets, and they're concrete. So that's going to do some damage. There was also an issue with, he had done his own plumbing to the toilet out the back, towards the back of the house near the laundry. And the toilet wasn't properly connected to the floor, which means that when you go to sit on it, it's loose and moving around, which obviously is a problem. And again, there's no sealant on the wall, so there's just like this wide gap, and a mouse could get in, a rat could get in, like damp could get in, like all of this stuff. It had been leaking, and we had the same issue. So underneath the floor, all the wood was rotten, and that floor is going to give away any moment. So it was just, and there was buildup of mold spores, which you can't see with your eye, but they show up on these special detectors that the inspector was using, and blah, blah, blah. Nightmare. So it was interesting because I got the report back, and when I started reading it, I was like aware that my energy was going from I can fix this to, okay, I'm out. And when I spoke with the inspector, he said to me, how are you? And I said, well, Devo, like, I'm totally shattered because I love this house. And he said to me, Brooklyn, like, this house shouldn't even be on the market. It's not livable. It's a tear down. And he said, we would never really get asked to go and do building inspections on a property like this, because people would buy it for the land, not to live in the house. And yeah, it was just hard. And at the same time that it was hard to hear, and I was grateful and I was thankful, I didn't cry. Like, I didn't feel like, yes, I was shattered and I was devastated, but I didn't feel anxious about it. I didn't feel like it's the end of the world. It wasn't anything like that. It was just kind of, I don't know, like I was just not numb to it or anything. It was just like, I don't know, it was just like an absence of anything. And I was thinking about it kind of as the day unfolded. and over the next day and things. And, people were very kind to me, and they were saying, I'm so sorry you didn't get the house. And I was so appreciative of, their kind words and things. But I guess too, at the same time, it didn't take long at all for me to say to myself, well, this is what you've got your beliefs for. Let's use them. So I thought, well, what do I believe? And I really believe that things are always working in my favor, that things are always working out for me, that I'm always right where I'm meant to be, and that I am supported, I am connected to the universe or energy or source or, my guides or angels or whatever. Like I believe in that. And I cannot dismiss all of the signs and all of the coincidences that had led up to that event, which for me, I interpret as it's not over. Like, I am still in the middle of this manifestation. It's not over. And it will be over when I'm in the house, and then I'll be able to look back and everything's going to make sense. Right now, there's no point me trying to make sense of what happened and how it unfolded, because I'm sure that things are still happening for me and around me. And as I said, it's not done yet. I will only be able to make sense of it when it is done. And I'm in the new house and I'm there, and I will be able to record an episode for you with, now it'll make sense. Like, these things needed to happen. Like that guidance from Liv about the boulder and the mine, and, and then Clunes, and then going out to Korumburra, and then getting the house of my dreams, and then getting that confirmation by being led to the random plaque in the random park with the random message on it that said, in loving memory of, this woman whose husband, Frank, was killed in the Austral coal mine when a great big boulder fell on him, like unexpectedly, like out of the blue. Like signs. I can't ignore it. And that wouldn't be the end. Like, there's more coming. So I guess maybe it's like, she didn't really like the place that much, because then she'd be more upset. But it's not that. I love that place very, very, very much. But I also know that it's this or something better. That's what I believe every single time. It's this or something better. So I'm choosing to believe that the something better is on its way. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I'm still going to do the things. I'm still going to take the aligned action. I'm back on realestate.com looking for the next house, waiting for, it to kind of like pop up on my radar and go from there. And I don't know how my home is going to come to me. You can only do what you can do, but also allowing space for the unexpected, right? And I have so many examples of that, like thinking, like if I wanted something to happen, I used to think in like a very human way, I guess, like, I just have to do this thing and this thing and this thing. Like there was this one time years ago when I changed accountants, and we were doing the tax return and everything, and the tax return was, I don't know, I forget the exact amount, but let's say it was like $20,000 or something. And yeah, I had set aside the money, went to pay for it. The accountant gets back in touch with me and says, we're going to need another 20,000. And I was like, well, what for? And he said, because you've got a debt. I was like, I don't have a debt. He's like, yeah, you didn't pay your tax last year. I was like, yes, I did. So then I had to go and like scrounge up all my tax like the evidence of the payment that you get when you make the payments and everything. So I forwarded all of that on to my accountant, and he's like, oh, I wonder what's going on. So he rings the ATO, and they're like, nope, we haven't got anything. And the accountant comes back to me, and he's like, they're cracking down on this now, and they're taking people to court, and they're saying that they're going to start like proceedings if you don't get this tax thing sorted out. And I was beside myself because, I've got a trauma background. I'm scared witless of getting into trouble, all of those things. I'm perpetually people pleasing, like always the good girl who does all the right things all the time. And so I'm like, I'm shocked, I'm scared, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, I've got this evidence. I keep going back to my accountant, and I said, you got to talk to them. I've paid it. And he would speak to them, and they were adamant it hadn't been paid. And I was like, well, how do you explain this receipt? And you can see on my bank statement that the money's gone into the account and all of this. And anyway, it wasn't threats, but it was like, they're getting serious, Brooklyn. They're going to start proceedings. Like, you've got to pay this extra 20,000. I didn't have an extra 20,000 just lying around. And I didn't want to get into trouble and all of the things. And then I tried to ring the ATO, and it wasn't that they wouldn't take my call. It was that I was spiraling and I couldn't communicate clearly. I was just like hysterical. I got back to the accountant. I'm like, please just like escalate it, like speak to somebody else. And he tried, and they said, no, it's out of their hands now. It's gone off to this other department. And then I was like in a real way. So I started selling stuff to come up with the 20,000 so that I could pay for it. And I was listing things everywhere so I could quickly get some extra money in and raise it so that I didn't have to go through this whole thing. And we get an email from the ATO saying, oh, sorry, our mistake. They had recorded the payment that I had made into a different account, like that there was a different number at their end on it. And they said, yeah, all good. Sorry for any inconvenience. Have a nice day. But for me, it was like major trauma. But anyway, that's what I mean. Like, you never know how things are going to happen. I thought I was going to have to work harder, sell my stuff, find a way, But as it happened, no, it was there. There was another time where, I don't know, I thought something was going to happen, and yeah, I was taking the steps, but then the outcome just came like a totally random way. One of my clients, she needed money for something. I don't know why this is all about money, but she needed money for something. And so she was like working harder. And then the money came to her, not through her hard work, but through an inheritance. I mean, you just never know. You've got to show up in the space that says this is happening. And when you're doing that, you're showing up in the identity of the person it's happening for, the person who's making it happen, right? You're operating from cause. You're leading it, rather than you're being a victim and this is happening to you and you don't have any power. So that's why when we're talking about manifesting, it's always very important to remember that you have to lead things. It's the leading. It even happens without you needing to be intentional and conscious of being in this identity of the person who's already got it. But that's what's happening beneath. When you take that action, you're embodying the identity of the person who's got it, right? And the way that it comes is very rarely anything to do with you in the world of manifesting, right? Yes, there are certainly things that you can do that can help things along and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when it's something you're manifesting on, things will come to you in random ways. Like one of my clients, she have been struggling with her marketing for so long, and she didn't have many clients and things like that. And she kept posting on her Facebook, all these different ways. And then one day, like just out of the blue, she ended up getting this EAP contract. Just her. It wasn't through an EAP company, it was a business. They just randomly contacted her and they were like, do you do EAP? We're not happy with our EAP provider. We want EAP. And she got herself like this very lucrative EAP contract. And she didn't need to fill her diary with one-to-one counseling clients anymore. You know, it's that you have to do your bit. The universe will do the rest. So my bit for me now with the house is keep on going on, trust in the process, and embody the identity of the person who gets the house that she wants in the location, with the things, with the ways, and be open to receiving it in unexpected ways. And yeah, being open to, I guess, intuition, like really listening to my gut. So that's where I am at the moment. And I remember saying to you before that I've got this wall calendar and it's got 4 rows of the 3 months. And on the right hand side where it's got the weekend, on January, all of that is pink. And then in February, it's like tangerine. And then in yellow, it's lemon. You know, it's a colorful little poster. And I always remember looking at March and I was like, that's when this house is going to appear. And I am looking at it right now as I'm talking to you. Would you believe on where it's got the 16th of March, it's got a drawing of a house. And that was the day I thought I was going to get the house. But what it was the day I found out the house is a tear down and I didn't get it. But can you see, like, I'm tuning into the messages here. I tuned in that it was March. I tuned in the exact date and I tuned in that it was going to be a significant event with the house. I just tuned into the wrong thing there. I thought it was going to be the confirmation. But what it turned out to be was a confirmation that it's not, and it's a detour, and it was a significant event, right? So I know I'm connected, tapped in, tuned in, turned on to what's going on around me energetically. It is kind of freaking me out a little bit, but at the same time providing me with a safety cushion. I'm looking at the calendar right now and I can see, you know, April through to December, and I'm not feeling drawn yet to any particular month. So yeah, I'm not sure what that's meaning. Maybe just me guessing here, but maybe I haven't tuned in yet to the right frequency, to the right wavelength, for the right pathway to call the house in. And I think that's happened because my identity stuff around getting the house got waylaid and sidetracked at the end of last week and then over the weekend. So I think once I get back on path, then I'll be able to look at the calendar, tune in. I will see a month and I will see, like, you know, I will get a feeling about the date and the time and stuff like that. Like, even now as I'm talking about it, I can feel that connection to the frequency strengthening, and I'm feeling like it's probably going to be May. I don't know why, but yeah, just looking at the calendar, I feel really drawn to May. I don't know why, but it's the same feeling I had when I was looking at March in January. Like, it was January, I was sitting on my couch with Buddy, and I just kept noticing that when I was looking at that calendar, my eyes were always going to March. And that's when everything kicked off with the house. Now, as I'm talking to you, I don't know, like, I'm probably 50-50 May. Maybe April, but I'm really feeling drawn to May. So yeah, I guess we'll know more in May, won't we? We'll have to stay tuned and find out. But I'm looking at it again and I'm just feeling it's a May connection that I have. So yeah, interesting. We'll see what happens. So that's what's been going on behind the scenes with the house. But I will leave it there for today. I just wanted to say, if you came to the free mini workshop, if you've ever done any of my free bite-sized trainings, like I used to do them years ago, I stopped doing them. I can't remember why, but I thought recently, oh, maybe I should kick them off again. So I did one yesterday, and it was for websites, like it was a super short training. It went for like 15 minutes, and then just opened it up to Q&A and did a few, I think 3. I had space for 4, but I did 3 mini website reviews of people's websites, just giving them a few little tips and pointers. And then some people kicked on for some questions and stuff. So it ended up going for an hour. But I'm just going to do them every week. The next one is on Tuesday. So they're always on Tuesday at 12 noon. So they're kind of in people's lunch times, and they're online, and it's like 15 minutes of a little training. Then 4 people can get my eyes on their stuff, like whatever the topic is. So next week it's social media and Facebook, specifically Facebook, fixing people's Facebook. And then everybody who registers gets the replay and, bibs and bobs and stuff like that. So if you ever want to come along to them. You're most welcome. But so I'm just going to do them like, I always say, right, business happens in 90-day cycles. So I'm going to do these for 12 or 13 weeks for the 90 days. And then we'll just see, how it went, what it was like, what the uptake has been, if they're useful for anybody, and things like that. And also want to track my numbers. So yesterday was the first one, and I marketed that one. Here's the marketing. Here's what I did for the marketing. I came up with the idea on Sunday. On Sunday afternoon, I put a post on my Facebook group, my Facebook business page, my profile. I shared it to my stories on Facebook, and I sent an email to my list on Monday morning, like the day before. So it gave nobody any notice whatsoever. Probably not fantastic, but when I look at my metrics, I can see that, it was interesting. 101 people looked at my opt-in form, my landing page, and 55 registered. So, that's a super duper high conversion rate. So that was good, because that told me, okay, it's like every second person wanted to come along to this that knew about it. So I will do that one again, because I can see there was definitely a need because of high conversion. I think probably there were a lot of people who just didn't know about it, because it was really only like a day and a half people had to see stuff. And if they didn't read that email on Monday, they probably didn't know about it. So I think if they had more time, probably more would come. So I will run that one again. As I said, next week's one is on fixing Facebook, and that's to help people who are using Facebook to build their businesses but are struggling to get clients from it. I want to show them how to get clients from it, and of course support some people who are on the call by giving them a quick glance over their Facebook and what they've been doing, so that they can get some personalized support and suggestions and recommendations, so that they can turn it around and start to, I guess, feel more confident with it and get it moving in the right direction. So you're most welcome to come along to any of those if you like. We've got until the end of March for applications for Practice Momentum and Momentum Ascend. So you can go to my website and read more about either of those if you like. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of my world. And if there's anything you ever need, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. All right, have a gorgeous rest of the week, and I'll speak to you again on Saturday. Okay, bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorm.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.